Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. As you can see in front of you, there are three brand new carburetors, and I need to rebuild all three of these. So despite them being brand new, each one of these has problems. And I'll go through all the problems they have and talk about what I'm going to do about them. But first I want to show you the carbs. Now I did not buy these straight from any supplier. All these came from me via trades for good rebuilt AC Dodd zero tolerance carburetors. So through conversations with the owners of these, I went through and explained why they would not work in their specific application. So we now have three carburetors here, and these two are 44s, and this is an HS4. Now I have removed some of the equipment because I'm about to take this over to get the machining work done, so I have stripped it somewhat. But these were complete before I took them apart. So let's just take a moment and start with this 44, and then I'll get into these here in a minute. So with this 44 here, again, brand new, never been used, bought from a supplier, I don't know who, but this is how it came out. So for starters, throttle disc has the little anti-stall or whatever you call this valve. This is not what you want because these things eventually the spring gets weak and this is just an air leak. So that's a performance problem. The throttle shafts on both these two carburetors are okay. They have throttle shaft seals which will make them work. The throttle shafts on this HS4 are terrible. Let me see if I can get a good... Yeah, it's like 5 thou clearance on that. But we'll get back to this carburetor in a second. So, yeah, wrong valve. And then if you look at the vacuum port here, it's been set up for manifold. And we want ported. Now, the factory does have a secondary position for this, already drilled into the body, probably just for efficiency because they can only make one casting for two different applications. But I need to move this port back over to here to gain access to the ported vacuum position. So that's problem number two. I didn't actually open up the float chambers on these. I'll deal with that when I'm doing the rebuild portion of it. But the next biggest problem that I ran into was when I went to take the needle out of this carburetor, I found that the set screw holding the needle holding piece had been tightened so hard that you can see the burr right there and a channel that this screw has driven into this brass piece. So I had a heck of a time removing this from the body of the piston because it was so galled here that it wouldn't slide out of the chamber. And I can't actually use this brand new brass piece anymore because now every time you're going to screw this screw in, it's just going to interlock into that little divot. So yeah, I'll have to get a new one of these pieces as well. The other problem I noticed on this carburetor is that when you lift the piston up, it doesn't drop smoothly. It sort of slows down right about here. And I don't know, again, how long this carburetor has been sitting around, but I suspect probably some dirt or grit has gotten into this suction chamber and is causing it a bit of a drop issue. So obviously I'll have to take all this apart and give it a clean. I haven't checked the drop rates or anything like that on this carb. Like I said, I need to fix this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo the bushings on here to make them tighter, and then I'll get a new disc and fix the vacuum port problem. So that's this carburetor. This HIF44 has similar issues. It has the right disc, similar amount of play in the shafts and the bushings. Again, I'm going to be doing bushings on this. It has the correct porting. 1505 damper. I probably will change that to a 2085. Otherwise, this one looked okay. It did not have the same overly tight screw problem. However, the damper rod on this was sticking. I've actually freed it up since I started messing about with this one. It also doesn't open up all the way. Both these carbs, they don't open up past the edge of this little keyway here. That's another minor issue. So now let's move on to the HS4. So this HS4, again, I don't know who supplied it, but you saw earlier that we have, totally worn out. I would say this is totally worn out, even though it's brand new. That's the clearances we have on this bushing. So, wrong bushing. The disc with a hole, I don't want the hole. I just want a solid disc. It has manifold, vacuum, on the vacuum fitting here, so this will have to be moved to this position to get ported. Oh yeah, this one had a really fun problem. So when I lifted up the piston, it just stopped there. Like, you see how it's even jammed up? I know the lid is loose, but the piston won't open past that point without force. I have to push it. And the reason is that there is a defect in this casting. So when we take it out, you know, this thing looked normal. But what I found was that the spring no longer goes down and rests against these little support braces as they do on an original HS4, which I will show here in a second. Instead, this spring was just binding up about halfway down. And when the spring was compressing, essentially you had spring coil bind at that point, which was preventing the piston from going all the way open. So if this carb had been fitted to a car, it would have only had about half the amount of available airflow through this carb. It would have really performed very poorly. So here's a lid for an original HS4 with spring, and if I fit the spring down here, you can see that it goes all the way down to the little support ridges, and just, you know, it's easy to move in and out, and coil bind happens way past the end of this. So hopefully you understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about you know, the manufacturing problem with this top on that carburetor over here. Other issues, I noticed that the linkage for the choke wasn't allowing the choke to go fully up when I ran this into its most lean point, where the jet and the bridge were equal to the bridge piece here. That was a problem. Also, the pin cushion, the piston, the little stopper cushion here, is totally flush. You're supposed to have like 10-12 thou of that cushion sticking out, and this one is absolutely flush in the bridge. So another defect in assembly. You can see there's zero. You can supposed to see some air gap in there. That's what I'm saying about 10-12 thou. There's nothing. In fact, when I drop this, it's just a hard metallic slap. So this has a pin cushion problem. This one has a pin cushion problem. This one actually has a decent cushion. You can hear it doesn't snap. It doesn't, you know, it drops nicely against this cushion. So this one is correct, at least in that aspect there. But these other two have bad cushions. So that's the little layout of all the things I have to do. Like I said, these are all going to go off and get their bushings fixed first before I address the other problems. And on this one, I'm probably going to have this inner surface machined a few thou to make space for the spring. In fact, this is even slightly tapered as I'm feeling it now. It has a bit of a taper. So this casting itself is actually bad, or something. Something happened to this one, but hopefully I can get it corrected and get this carb working again. Otherwise, potentially I could just get an old top and fit it to this new body, but I'd rather use this new top since it looks really nice. But yeah, definitely a whole collection of different problems I have with absolutely brand new carburetors. So if you guys think you can just get parts out of a box and fit them to your car, you're going to be absolutely mistaken in that assumption, because you need to check and inspect everything you get that's brand new before you fit it to your car to ensure that it is going to perform to your expectations, and if it even operates correctly. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to come in here and machine this material to make space for the spring. I figured, you know, the factory would just make these pieces fit properly, but clearly you can see in there that the spring does not fully seat, and thus is causing the problem. So pay attention to where you get your parts from and who you get them from. Now, I know that you can buy a AC Dodd rebuilt carburetor from him directly. You can also buy a brand new AC Dodd spec carburetor from Berlin or Mini Spares. So either one of those, at least in terms of its configuration with the vacuum port and the disc and things like that, they'll be correct out of the box, so you don't have to worry about those problems. But yeah, hopefully guys, you understand when we talk about checking and inspecting your parts, we really mean you need to check every little detail. So if you guys thought the video was interesting and helpful, let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.